Welcome to the Israeli Frenemies. I'm Eli Chazan, the Foreign Affairs Director of Likud Party in Israel, and with me, MK Mossi Raz for Meretz. Hello, Mossi.
Hello, good afternoon, Eli.
Let's begin.
When they talk about tough deals, they always say Israel and the Palestinians. That's the toughest of all deals.
Are you going to say something
I
about the
like
sovereignty?
two-state solution. Yeah.
Mr. President, what
That's
do you
what I
think?
think. That's what I think works best. I don't even have to speak to anybody. That's my feeling. Now, you may have a different feeling. I don't think so, but I think two-state solution works best.
President Trump met yesterday Prime Minister Netanyahu and said, as we have heard, I like two-state solution. And I wanted to ask you, Eli, is it what you expected him to say? Is it what your party supports or not anymore?
First of all, let's speak about the Likud Party. There are a lot of voices in the Likud Party. There are some supporters of the two-state solution. There are a minority, of course. The majority is against
including the Prime Minister.
it depends. I mean, he's not in a minority. He needs to think very well about the situation, and he's trying to find some solutions to the impossible situation in the Middle East, especially about the state of Israel, and of course with the Palestinians. However, the majority of the Likud is against two-state solution, but people like me were in favor of the status quo, because, as you know, this is already well known. Because we don't have a partner, therefore we cannot move forward with the peace process. The less war situation is the status quo situation, and that is what we are, trying to promote as much as we can, because we don't have any other good deal. Now we are waiting to see what Trump would offer. I'm not against it. Personally, I must say that whatever Trump will bring, I'm in favor, because unfortunately, the Palestinians will destroy it.
So if Trump comes and say 67 borders, agreed and just solution to the question of the refugees, division of Jerusalem according to how President Clinton has said, what is Jewish to the Israelis, what is Arab to the Palestinians, and a kind of swap, exchange of land with the agreement of two sides, you will support?
No, I don't believe he will bring it. He will bring something much more logical. I see his policy right now. He, in fact, adopted the Israeli classic narrative of I would say, the classic left wing in Israel. I don't believe he will bring it as such. He will bring few things, and this is a base for a negotiation. I belong in my party to the people who say we are not against negotiation, but the question is what would be the terms. We are not against solution, not at all. But, and this is why we support Netanyahu very much. We count on him that he will get the best deal for the state of Israel.
On the other side, me, in the left wing, I'm among people in my party that not necessarily support negotiations. And when last time Netanyahu sent Mrs. Livni to negotiate years ago, and it was very clear that it's only a matter of a kind of a show in order to earn time, in order to show that, like you have said, the other side is not a partner. I think, of course, the opposite. So negotiations like that, I prefer without them. I prefer.
So what would you offer? I mean, I've been following the left wing in Israel. What would you offer?
It's very clear what I'm offering. You was very frank. You said status quo. We offer Geneva Initiative. We offer an agreement that many Israelis and Palestinians can agree upon, which is more or less what I mentioned earlier, 67 borders with exchange of land, agreed and just solution to the question of refugees. All the Arab states and Islamic states said again and again and again, many times, that they support that. But on the other hand, in Israel, not the government nor the main opposition support that. If we don't support that, I can maybe initiate a kind of international arbitration or kind of a new UNESCO a committee or something that is going to help both sides to agree upon.
But you truly believe that the Palestinian leadership is in favor of two-state solution, because I'm not against the principle, but I believe that they don't want to create a state next to the state of Israel.
It's a very good question. I'm not sure, but I truly believe that nobody in Israel until now, I mean, no prime minister until now, ever said, okay, I agree to that. Ever.
You know, Barak went to the Camp David summit. Olmert went, offered in 2007.
Yes, but you know that Barak insisted of occupying, of annexing 13% of the West Bank. You know that Olmert insisted of annexing small part of the West Bank. None of them said 67 borders. Now,
and you truly believe that if we will say 67 borders, it would
be... You asked at the beginning. You said, I'm not sure. Okay. But what I am sure is that in the last decades, the Palestinians say again and again, we agree to two states in 67 borders, and Israel say again and again, no. And it's not only the Likud party, it's Labour Party as well. So we never tried. And I think we should try.
I tell you what, I believe that this is the difference between me and you. I don't believe them, because I see what's happened along history. We were trying too many times.
No, ever in the history of Israel, in the history of the occupation, 51 years, there was no even one prime minister who said, I support and agree to the principle of 67 borders. Like Menachem Begin, Prime Minister,
this is a different story,
has done with the Egypt.
I tell you what's the difference. The Egyptians acknowledge or recognize in the state of Israel. The Palestinians said they're recognizing, but you see that all the
Palestinians recognize, they cooperate. If you talk
about
security, there is security cooperation. And even more than that, Arafat has said in the past that he recognized Israel as a Jewish state, something that never
And on the other hand, he recognized, you know, maybe in English, but in Arabic, he encouraged jihad. I can give you a lot of examples. Thank you.
Of course. I agree with you. I'm not saying, you have to understand, I did not vote for Abu Mazen. I am not a member in his parliament. I did not serve in his army. And I don't pay taxes for it. All my expectations are for my government. And my government again and again and again refuse to peace agreement all the time.
Because logically they cannot risk the interest of... Next topic would be the situation in Gaza, and I'm quite curious. What would you think would be the best way to solve the problem of Gaza? And I guess you represent some of the views of the left wing in Israel as an elected MK of Meretz.
Yes, you know, it's very difficult when you jump from the 100th floor and came to the 81 to ask, okay, what should we do now?
No, because I tell you why I'm asking. I follow you on Facebook and sometimes on Twitter, and I read what you're writing, and I'm quite curious to listen.
Okay, first I want to say that the situation in Gaza is very complicated because we have to deal in two tracks. The first one is with the Palestinian leadership, with Abu Mazen, with the PLO, on the question of the final status agreement between both sides. I even didn't say peace, but the final status agreement, we have to say first time in our history, we agree to 67 borders. And second, the track of the Hamas, which is way more problematic. Because first, unlike Abu Mazen and the PLO, Hamas does not accept Israel. Second, of course, when we talk to the Hamas, the Palestinian leadership is very unhappy about that. I'm sorry that they are very unhappy because we had to do that, but I can understand that because you can imagine a situation that the Palestinians cannot deal with the Israeli government and they deal with the settlers. and make a kind of ceasefire with the settlers. Of course, it's very problematic.
The settlers did not do what the Hamas has done in the PLO, to the PLO.
Nobody has done the same to each other, but you know, it was in our state that somebody, of course I'm not saying about a group of people, but about one person, went and assassinated the prime minister.
Which we demonized out loud more than one time.
Yes.
It's already been spoken about.
Yes, but we remember the incitement and we remember the
Of course, I remember the incitement. So, the incitement against Netanyahu as well, not only that, and the incitement right now.
Of course, you know that the incitement is not the same. I'm very sad to hear that you think the incitement is the same.
The social media.
Anyhow, the social media. If you read what I write in Facebook and how people react in Israel to this, and people tell me, stop them, block them, and I would not do that because I think that it is one of our assets, the way of people in the right wing think. Anyhow, for Gaza, we have to, and I think the government is trying to do that, by the way. I'm not very criticized about that. We have to make more and more efforts in order to achieve ceasefire between us and the Hamas. Even long-term ceasefire. But we have to understand that in this ceasefire, we have to stop the blockade. We have to let them go fishing. We have to let them go to...
You know that the blockade is a military blockade. It's not necessarily until the last clashes. It was not necessarily military or civic blockade because, you know, I watch what's happened in Gaza and I see almost on a daily basis when we don't have the conflict, a lot of trucks from the Israeli border with a lot of goods go inside. There is no hunger in...
Yeah, I didn't say that, yes.
So it's not the real...
This is military blockade, but I think not important and counterproductive blockade. You see, you are worried about the situation in Gaza. After all these years of blockade, you're still worried because in the end of the day, with a balloon, they can do sometimes more than with a missile.
But we know exactly what is the end. I mean, if we will take off the blockade, we know it will get worse. I mean...
How do you know that?
I look at the actions of Hamas.
It was better before the blockade.
You know, before the
disengagement... I think that the blockade empowered the Hamas very much and strengthened them. Why? I remember when they started with the blockade 11 years ago, I went to Deputy to Prime Minister then, Chaim Ramon, and told him, what are you doing? You are empowering the Hamas. He said, no, the Hamas is going to collapse in 3 months. Because what did the Hamas do? They have their tunnels, and then all things are going in, not all, but many of the things that are going into Gaza in those years get taxes from Hamas, they rule the tunnels, and they get more and more power out of that. And you know, when you make sanctions, when you make BDS on people, and they say the same thing to the BDS against Israel, you just strengthen the hatred to you. Look what happens with the BDS movement towards Israel.
We became much stronger.
They became stronger, maybe, but more and more Israelis opposing them. And what I'm trying to say, Israel is not weaker because of the BDS, and Hamas is not weaker because the sanctions that
but you don't believe that they will, you know, transfer weapons from Iran to Hamas without the blockade? It is very logical. I mean, you know, I'm listening to the Hamas leaders. I know the intentions. I read the charters. I know I see the actions. Don't you concern about this?
Yes, I am concerned. I think that this is a real problem that we have to deal with. Mr. Hazan, the elections, coming elections in Israel, supposed to come at November 5th, 2019. and you are from the ruling party, probably you know way better than me. When should we expect for elections?
No one knows. In fact, I don't believe that the Prime Minister himself knows exactly when the election will be held. But I believe we should wait and see. I think it's idealistic that the election will be held in November, but in any case, not before July. Everyone, you know, speaks about January or March, but we need to explain to our audience that the political structure in Israel is so complex. No. And so it's almost impossible to understand the situation because of the drafting law. We don't know. The question is whether it's good for your party. I mean, for you as an MK, if I would have to guess, it's not good. You would like to continue as an MK, to influence. But the question is whether it's good to Meretz, if you look what's happened in the left bloc in Israel.
I really don't know. As opposition, we call for elections. I saw in the past that many times you thought that you are going to win and you lost, and the opposite. So the fact that right now we have in the public opinion polls more or less what we have now doesn't say anything about that. As oppositions, of course, we call and we urge elections. Maybe I should say for the people who watch us, and I think even in Israel, most of the people don't know, the elections in Israel, actually the term of the Knesset is not for 4 years. The Knesset was elected in March 2015. And according to the Israeli law, it is until the third Tuesday in Cheshvan 2019, meaning November 5th, meaning that the Knesset was elected for 4 years and about 8 months. Now, last time that elections in Israel were on time was in 1988, 30 years ago, November 1988. It might happen again. And another interesting point, you said not before July. Another interesting point is that last time that the elections were in the second part of the year was 1988, okay, November 1988, because second part of the year is not very convenient for elections. July and August, everybody is abroad. Then comes September and October with the Jewish holidays. So November, it's maybe okay. But again, last time that it happened was 30 years ago. So
and
nobody
if I would
knows.
have to ask you, would you support in Avi Gabai? I mean, after the election, in the process, in order to a prime minister, to be a prime minister, in order to create a government, it needs to be recommended by the factions. My question is, who you are going to recommend on?
I think if Gabai is the chairperson of Labour Party, we will recommend on him. I don't know if he has any chances. And
what do you think about Lapid?
We are closer to the Labour Party than to Lapid. We are closer to Gabai than to Lapid. And if we have to decide between both of them, of course, we prefer Gabai. But if the question is Lapid or Netanyahu, then
no doubt about it.
Yeah, I must tell you that many people who vote for us have some doubts about that. But in the end of the day, I believe 80% of us prefer Lapid on Netanyahu, not 100%.
It's surprising.
So we will recommend Lapid and not Netanyahu.
And another question is, your leader, Tamar Zandberg, did not disqualify Yvette Lieberman as a partner, as a future partner, or at least she said something about it. Can you accept Lieberman to be a member of your coalition, if and when? I don't believe it will happen.
My coalition, you mean if I form the coalition?
No, if your left bloc will form the coalition. No one, I think if you're realistic, you don't believe that it will happen, but hypothetically, I'm asking. Because if you say yes, it may create an earthquake in the Israeli political system.
Tamar Zandberg said yes.
But the question is whether the party supports.
She's
whether
the chair,
people like you support her.
She's the chairperson of the party, so most of the chances that if there is a vote, she can win in such a vote. I personally don't want that. Personally, I will not be a minister in such a government. I remember that when Lieberman joined government in 2006. Maybe 7.
Okay.
I remember that people like Ophir Pines, for example, left the government, from the Labour Party, left the government because they said we don't want to be with him in the same government. Yet, I hope that in the future many people are going to change their views and adapt our views, and then things can be different. But if we talk about what is right now, I don't see any way to cooperate. I don't think that we have to sit in a government that is not trying to achieve ending the occupation, to end the occupation and to achieve an agreement with the Palestinians. If partners are willing to do that, and ending the occupation is in 67 borders. If Lieberman says, I support 67 borders.
You know, you may be surprised, Lieberman has wrote a biography in 2004 named My Truth. And there he mentioned that he's willing to give up over his house for peace.
Right. And Lieberman, we should say that. On the other hand, I said I don't want to be with him in this coalition, but on the other hand, I have said, I have to mention that he's pragmatic. And he said more than that. He wants to exchange lands between Israel and Palestine. But I cannot agree as a citizen in this state that citizens in this state will be transferred. It's not a transfer because it's with their lands to Palestine if they don't agree to that. So that's why I cannot support that, and I think this is a very problematic idea.
And what do you think you should go for in the next campaign election as merits? If you know,
it's very... I can't know, but I think if Meretz wants to get more and more power, we have to focus our activity in anti-occupation activity.
Last segment for the show, we will end with something good in a very short. Mostly we will start with you.
A very good thing. This is the third day that we have a train from the airport to Jerusalem.
Wow.
126 years after the Ottomans built the railway from Tel Aviv to Jaffa to Jerusalem, now we have a
Amazingly, that's what I wanted to say, and we were not coordinated. This is something historical for those who come to Israel, and they will have the possibility to see it. A train in the first stage from Jerusalem to the airport. Next year, from the airport to Tel Aviv, a direct train from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv historically.
But if you want to use the train, you have to go to the website.
In the first stage?
Yes, okay. No, because I'm just, for people who come from abroad, don't expect to buy ticket in...
MK Moshe Raz, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure for me.